Students in exit classes resume school in preparation for the West African Senior School Certificate examinations. Many states counting their losses as floods wreak havoc, and revenue earner in Ebonyi State yearning for urgent attention. Plus, sellers of firewood lament challenges. Thanks for joining us on another edition of The Correspondence this week. It promises to be educative as usual. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. Welcome. Now let's begin with the school resumption. Preparations are on top gear for exit classes to write the senior secondary school certificate examination after several months at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. But as students return to classes, issues of safety in a conducive environment are making the minds of parents and educationists agitated. Correspondent Hadiza Godwin-Ebune went round some schools in the FCT to check the level of compliance with COVID-19 protocols.
Research reveals that to reduce risk, schools should make adjustments. Recommended safety measures include wearing face coverings in schools, limiting movements, and placing desks several feet apart is also advised. Cancelling assemblies, cafeteria meals, and other gatherings are other measures FCT schools have put in place to ensure safety. Chairman of the Secondary Education Board, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, says it is very concerned about the safety of students and teachers, and it is set to monitor every aspect of school reopening till all schools are covered.
It's a serious matter here in secondary education because we are dealing with kids who actually requires attention. They are no longer with their family or parents. So we are their parents, we are their teachers, we are their doctors. We have actually everything in order to ensure that these kids are actually safe. In view of the COVID-19, for now, all sporting activities are suspended, assemblies are suspended, and social distancing will be strictly monitored and respected. So the resumption now is specifically for them to prepare for their examinations.
Chairman FCT Task Force Team on COVID-19 warned that any school accommodating students other than the JSS 3 and SS3 at this period will be acting contrary to government's directive and will face disciplinary action.
We may not be able to go around all single schools yet, or we'll be going around the schools and ensuring that defaulting schools are properly called to order. Defaulting schools are asked to do what is right, and should they refuse to do what is right here, then we'll be left with no option than to bring them before the mobile court. Subsequently, if we see that lives are threatened, we'll approach the court and seek for seal-up orders.
FCT Situation Room on COVID-19 is also making efforts to ensure that schools are given all needed attention and response.
We've been receiving calls since the announcement was made. Parents calling to express concern about the safety of their children when they go back to school, and we assure them that as far as FCT is concerned, they are going to get the best for their children. They shouldn't entertain any fear. And the Chairman of the Secondary Education Body took some journalists also around for them to see what has been done. They have designated some rooms in their schools as isolation center based on what the NCDC and Federal Ministry of Education gave as guidelines to be followed. So all those protocols for FCT we're not going to have problem because the ministers are on top of the game.
The teachers are advised to take care of themselves and also take up role of enforcement and compliance to the COVID-19 protocols, just as parents and guardians are called to monitor their wards closely to complement schools' efforts at this period.
Thank you, Hadiza. Compliance with COVID-19 guidelines for the exit classes is a good litmus test of schools resuming fully. Now let's talk about flooding. In what can be described as natural or man-made occurrence, flood disaster in Nigeria has continuously brought devastating impact on property and human lives, with huge losses, largely due to negligence of responsibilities by many Nigerians. Well, in Nasarawa State, there is hope as the state government and affected communities are returning to the basics of improving awareness on environmental quality and infrastructure to reduce damage. Correspondent Achigli Magaji tells us more.
This is the outlook of popular Amba River, just like many other areas of north-central Nigeria, taking flood water from Benue Trough. Perhaps it is just a matter of size compared with the river and this street in Lafia. Incidentally, the area is part of millionaires' quarters in the heart of the metropolis. People and communities have started talking about the challenges.
3 weeks ago, the rain came in a very big way and broke my fence, and I just finished the reconstruction. And then the second, just last Saturday, another heavy downpour that came all through the night broke the fence again, and I'm now reconstructing it.
The seasonal overflow and the topography of most areas make them susceptible to flooding, with loss of properties and sources of livelihood. In addition to threats to infrastructure and cutting off communities from one another, many lives have been lost to flood.
And water come through the river. Now he come pack 3 people here.
Okay. This is River Amba, one of the many crisscrossing the length and breadth of Nasarawa State. But now it is just a strip. But in the event of a heavy downpour, it comes with a lot of devastation, just like what occurred a few days ago.
Just see water flushing everywhere. We don't know how the situation is. This culvert is too small for us because we have some poor people in Turamba. They don't know how to enter town.
Around 3 to 4, the rain was 4. I'm sleeping that, but the rain come. Jump up high, everything.
Many things are lost here. The animals, small children, even properties in our house. You see, one house there, their toilet now has broken. So water is doing a lot of problem here.
Road is already eating up right now. So please, we want to appeal to state government. They should try and come and do something about this route on time before it becomes worse. Because the rain has just begun right now. Before you will know now, before the rain goes high now, the whole of this road will be cut off.
Not unaware of the perennial flooding in the state, the Nasarawa state government is rising to the challenge by evolving ways of mitigating the effects on the people.
Usually, we try to be more proactive than reactive. And what we're doing now is to sensitize our people, particularly those of them within the flood-prone zones, to educate them and identify areas within the places where should we have a flood, we can say we can relocate them and make provisions for their maintenance in terms of food security and health challenges that might come with those kind of things. So the Nasarawa State Emergency Management Agency, NASEMA, is on top of it, and they already arranged to have those workshops, seminars in those local governments and educate the people and sensitize them. We did that last year, and that helped us a great deal. But even though we had a few floods here and there, but the devastation was minimal as far as the communities are concerned. And we want to build up on that.
The outlook is still not good news, as the relevant agencies of government give advisories on the likelihood of high flooding and what Nigerians must do to reduce the impact.
Now, as usual, we have our correspondent joining us on the program to talk more on flooding and the Nasarawa State experience. And today we have our correspondent in Lafia, Achigli Magaji. Welcome to the correspondents.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Now, it's that time of the year when many households and farmers count their losses, given the NISA predictions for 2020 that Nigerians should expect rains and more flooding. Do you think history is about to repeat itself like the ugly incident of 2012?
Okay, thank you. According to the 2020 flooding outlook by the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, it states that about 21 states, including Nasarawa, especially those on the Benue Trail, are predisposed to having flooding similar to that of 2012. But beyond that, we know that we have some underlying indices that may make Nasarawa come under flooding this year. Among these is the presence of large streams across the state that could easily overflow their banks in the event of heavy flood or heavy downpour. We know that the issue of urbanization also is there, and the attitude of the people, despite warnings by government agencies, you will see people erecting structures on natural waterways that will hurt the natural flow and course of water. This is a serious problem. And again, we know that the topography of Nasarawa State is largely rocky in surface and stony, which does not give room easily for percolation of water when there is downpour. So that possibility of water flowing always on the surface is high in this place. So we might be experiencing what we experienced in 2012 here.
But from your report, Nasarawa State has commenced efforts to mitigate the impact of flooding. Could you tell us more about the sensitization drive in light of what you've just explained?
Okay. Apart from, during the course of filing my reports, I had opportunity of interacting with the State Emergency Management Agency Secretary, even the Deputy Governor, who incidentally is the chairman of board of the agency. And I was told, apart from the ones I have seen, I was told that a lot of logistics have been mobilized and the sensitization campaign have been taken to the doorsteps of these local government areas that are always experiencing flooding year in, year out. Apart from that, I know that a lot of youths have come under the employment of the state government in terms of sensitization, in terms of logistics mobilization, in terms of emergency response. There are ad hoc staff that they have been mobilized and are on monthly stipends of the state government, and this is ongoing in case there is going to be incidents of flooding in the state.
And speaking more about such measures, how prepared is the state government to relocate victims in the event of flooding, especially in the face of the coronavirus pandemic?
Okay. The state government, from what I know, apart from the sensitization and trying to tell the people to move off flood-prone areas, they have engaged synergy with the various security agencies in the states, the Nigerian Medical Association, Red Cross, and the likes, in case of anything of such. And then there are designated camps already in these local government areas that are predisposed to flooding, and logistics have been mobilized to such camps, which I know because I've interacted with them. Then the Nasarawa Urban Development Board and the Nasarawa Geographic Information System have also been mandated, because a lot of people are not heeding the warnings, and these agencies have been mandated to pull down such erected buildings on waterways before the peak of the rainy season, which we know normally comes from end of October to September comes in. I think those are the major measures that the state government is taking.
So it seems as if all the stakeholders, the key actors in emergency management, are fully engaged and prepared for in the event of any flooding.
They are, because they always carry the media along, especially the NTA.
All right.
And from the ones I know, I think they're on top of the situation.
Thank you very much, Achigli Magaji, for giving us this update. We hope we can have you again soon for more updates.
Do have a great day.
And still to come, the lucrative business of firewood in Akwa Ibom State. Join us again after the break.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome back to The Correspondents. Now, let's talk about pipe production as a revenue earner. As the nation strategizes on how to overcome the damaging effect of COVID-19, Ebonyi State has intensified efforts at boosting its economic base. One of the areas viewed as having the capacity to turn the fortunes of the state around is the Ebonyi Pipe Production Company. Correspondent Uchechukwu Chibueze Idam examines the potentials and challenges of the industry.
Apart from contributing to the gross domestic income of the state, Ebonyi Pipe Production, since its inception in 2015, has continued to complement the efforts of the federal government in reducing the rate of unemployment in the country.
I'm very happy to be one of the staff of Ebonyi Pipe Production, and it's seriously a great privilege.
I'm happy that I'm one of the workers here. I thank God for the government.
With a view to consolidate on existing infrastructures while establishing new ones, in line with her vision of getting the state ready for a zero-oil economy, and also in alignment with the ideals of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, which promotes diversification of economy, especially now that concerted efforts are being made by leaders to resuscitate the dwindling economies of the world occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. Governor David Umahi's insistence on maintaining high standards in the industry set it apart. Professor Obunayachukwu is the Ebonyi State Commissioner for Commerce and Industry.
The capacity of the plant depends on the size we want to produce. For instance, when we recharge the machine from beginning to the end in 1 hour, we are going to get 20 lengths of 6 inches pipe in 1 hour. Now, the smaller the size you are producing, the more the number you turn out per hour. If you have to use the same quantity of loading materials to produce 4 inches pipes, we are going to produce 30 in 1 hour. That is the way it goes. Now, how has it affected the economy of the state? For instance, the government of the day under the present governor, Engineer Dr. David Umahi, did a lot in the area of provision of potable water to the teeming population of Ebonyi State, particularly for the residents in Abakaliki. In doing that, from A0 water work, they required, and other places that reticulation took place, they require a lot of HDP pipes. All these were sourced from Ebonyi Pipe Production Limited. In other words, the money which could have been spent outside the state was plowed back indirectly into the state economy.
Saddled with the task of manufacturing very high-quality products in accordance with international best practices, the engineers assured that Ebonyi Pipe can compete favorably with others produced outside the country. One of the challenges facing them, they said, is non-constant power supply.
The type of pipe we produce here is HDP pipe, high density pipe.
So now you can see the quality of the pipe, very thick. Mainly it is used for water regulation. You can use it for water in the States. You can use it for oil production, oil in the States. You can use it for soil piping anywhere. So it's a very high quality pipe. Then now we have different sizes of pipe. We can produce from 1 inch pipe to this first line produced from 1 inch to 3 inches, while the second machine produced from 4 inches to 250 to 10 inches pipe, while the third line produced from 12 inches to 16 inches, and also forth.
This machine, you can use it to join 3 pipes. Like I will still show you the examples, the pipe we use the machines to join. Like if you want to do some certain water rectifications and then you go to a T-junction, you need to join pipe, machines that joins it. Then you get these T-joints, the same machines that join it. It's all these things is produced by Ebony State Pipe Production Limited.
With advocacy for an improved local content and for Nigerians to have confidence in them, industries such as the Ebonyi Pipe Production Limited are expected to maintain high standards in their operations.
That's a point, Chichuku. Nigerian industries sure need more support for improved local content and patronage from Nigerians. And we'll get there very soon. Thank you very much. Now let's take you to Akwa Ibom State, to what used to be a popular means of cooking. Before the advent of modern cooking methods, firewood was a major source of cooking food. And most people, especially in the African setting, believe that meals cooked with it are more delicious than the ones cooked with gas or any other modern method. However, research shows that incessant cutting of firewood without replanting trees is against forest conservation and detrimental to the ecosystem. As the federal government promotes the use of gas, correspondent Wisdom Jacob takes us to a riverine community in Akwa Ibom State where firewood is in abundance and a major business.
Firewood is any wooden material that is gathered and used for fuel. Generally, firewood is not highly processed and is in some sort of recognizable log or branch forms of wood used as fuel. Although Nigerian government's policy on domestic gas is to provide an enabling environment for increased gas usage and to reduce the use of firewood as well as minimize its attendant effects on both humans and environment, about 30 million households still rely on firewood to cook. Iwochang is one of the coastal communities in Ibron local government area of Akwa Ibom State, but due to the peculiarity of the environment and economic stand, the people resort to sales of firewood, which is very essential for smoking of fresh fish and other activities. NTA news crew, during interaction with the people, were forced to ask where they got the firewood and benefits of selling firewood.
They buy to dry fish.
A very long distance. We get it from, we sometimes hire boats to get it from Etin and Ndia after Ona Bridge. We go as far as Etinan to get them down to around here. In the absence of doing nothing, so we can just manage it to help ourselves.
As I don't have any other things to do, I manage it to take care of my family.
What are the challenges associated with firewood business?
The only problem be how this water side there now, and there is no toilet here. For them to embark this water side well, do it normal so that we go feed waka as we dey buy fish, because women here, you get as we feed waka now and fall inside water because we no enjoy where we are working and to give us toilet.
Research result indicates that continuous use of firewood leads to deforestation and it imposed negative impact on humans. But the people of Iwochang have no choice than to go into firewood business to make ends meet.
Actually, Wisdom, there is need for Nigerians to find an alternative for firewood in order to save the environment from the abuse of deforestation. And that concludes the correspondence this week. Thanks for your company, and do join us again next week on another edition. Remember to follow our Twitter handle at FUOLUANTA Correspondence. Don't forget to use the hashtag whenever you make a comment or ask a question. And always remember to comply with COVID-19 guidelines wherever you go. Take responsibility and stay safe. Bye for now.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
On the go, anywhere in the world, NTA International. Your window to the world.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at the Stories Trending on the Hour. I'm Ruth Aguale. On the global scene, long-serving Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko has won a sixth term. The Central Electoral Commission said after elections marred by violence as police cracked down on opposition protesters. The country's Central Election Commission announced on Monday that all the ballots had been counted and Lukashenko took 80.23% of the votes, while his main opposition challenger, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, had 9.9%. The announcement came after police broke up crowds of protesters with stun grenades and rubber bullets on Sunday evening. Let's bring you COVID-19 updates. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has announced 437 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The cases were recorded in 16 states, bringing the total number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 to 46,577. 33,186 have been discharged and 945 deaths recorded. On the global scene, concern over the growing number of infections in France has prompted officials to make face masks compulsory in busy parts of Paris, the French capital, from Monday. Police said the order applies to people aged 11 and above in crowded areas such as banks, along the river Seine and open-air markets. Those who flout the rules risk a fine of €135. Let's look at other issues. Tanker drivers under the aegis of the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, have suspended their services in Lagos State as a result of what they called unconducive working environment and extortion of money from members of some agencies. Chairman Lagos Zone NUPENG, Tayo Ayodeji, says the action will be sustained until all demands are met.
The action they are putting on today is not because they want to hurt the economy, but they are to show their grievances to the government that things should not be done this way. It should be done that way.
The money for the road, they will still turn us, and last night also they are doing their own. They will arrest their motor, beating all their boys.
Those are the stories we have for you at this time. Thanks for being a part of it. Bye.
This is the network service of the NTA.
We as ministers in the Temple of Justice.
For anyone on the bench of the Nigerian judiciary, this chamber is the ultimate.
Let us all strive to maintain independence of the judiciary so as to ensure rule of law.
And the fact that the ministry is responsible for prosecution of cases makes the ministry very visible naturally.
If it is to buy time, you know who is buying time.
Becoming the first woman in the country to discharge the function. To me, Allah wished it that way.
Welcome to the program, The Scale of Justice.
Tune in every Monday at 2:05 p.m. and repeat broadcast comes up every Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. on the network service of the NTA. Keep the dates with us.
Hello, always nice to be with you on this program, the program we call The Skill. And that program helps you to look into the happenings of the third arm of government. We go around from the judiciary to the justice sector, and we indeed do an analysis of some of the laws that we are running in Nigeria. I'm Femi Okeowo, with the pleasure of having you around with us. It's just over a year now that this government commenced its second tenure after being elected for another 4-year term. That is the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, one part of that government that has that has gained continuity, if continuity is a credit, is the justice sector. Abubakar Malami, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has been the Minister of Justice since 2015. And now, with 2019 coming and him retaining that office, he has chosen to do a constant briefing of Nigerians of what is happening in the justice sector, particularly these days that so many things that are happening revolve around the justice sector. And so the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, did a parley with judiciary correspondents in Abuja and decided to feed us into the happenings in the justice sector, in the Ministry of Justice, and how much this ministry has impacted on positive governance in Nigeria. That is what we're going to focus on this edition of The Scale. And so we'll go to the Olusegun Obasanjo Hall at the Ministry of Justice, where media men gathered to hear what the ministry has been doing to help the Buhari administration maintain its focus. Solicitor General of the Federation, Dayo Akpata, said that the growing interest in the nation's justice sector activities made it necessary to hold the media interaction.
The media coverage in the Judiciary Code demonstrates that justice is served and criminals are punished. In as much as the media may expose wrongdoings in many systems, effective coverage of the justice sector also helps in preventing injustices by shining spotlights on the actions of justice, lawyers, and participants in justice sector. If I may just say it there, when we look at the whole gamut of press coverage, you find out that judicial correspondents hold one of the main key to effective administration of justice, rule of law in any given country, because you are the one that midwife the relationship between the legislative, judiciary, and the executive. Yes. It is in the light of the above that the Federal Ministry of Justice therefore saw the need for capacity building workshop to strengthen the skills of our journalists with a view to achieving efficient and effective coverage of the justice sector. The benefits of such capacity building engagement are multidimensional for journalists, the media organization, justice sector, and the general public. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that Ministry of Justice is now one of the 10 leading revenue yielding establishment institution in Nigeria. We want to thank you. When you look at it, that before now, you find out that the Ministry of Justice has always been in that traditional of going to court, of doing it, but with the asset management and recovery, Ministry of Justice is now one of the 10 leading establishments that now recover revenue for Nigeria. Thank you very much.
On violent crimes in the country, the Minister of Justice said over 500 terrorism cases have been handled between May 29, 2019 and July this year. He added that contrary to claims in some quarters, the nation's fight against corruption is getting stronger.
What is it that Ministry of Justice is doing for the purpose of ensuring at the end of the day that we have in place special courts that will be dedicated to the cases of anti-corruption for the purpose of enhancing the speed and then having quality justice delivery in terms of prosecution. We equally are expected to promote policies that will establish and enhance the welfare for judicial officers. We are equally expected to consider the correctional service decongestion program of the government, taking into consideration the sorry state of our correctional service centers and formation across the country. We equally consider the need for national crime database, which is a technological database development that will allow the courts and judicial service, judicial sector generally to access information with particular reference to investigation and prosecution of cases. Again, one of the components as it relates to deliverables are speedy illicit asset recovery, legislations for speedy trials, all targeted at streamlining criminal trial prosecution by agencies, job creation collaboration with private sector, speedy completion of high-profile corruption cases, and speedy passage of executive bills. So the vision arising from these deliverables is to make justice accessible to all, consistent with ideals of democracy and rule of law. And the mission, therefore, is to maintain the highest standards of professionalism, loyalty to the ideals of fairness and sustenance of healthy relationship between all arms and tiers of government. The Federal Ministry of Justice, in essence, is the federal government's primary institution responsible for the promotion of constitutionalism, provision of legal services, administration of justice, and promotion of socio-economic and political development of the country. The ministry is charged with the responsibility and mandate of providing legal advice and services to government, promoting the legal rights of citizens, interfacing between the executive and judicial arms of government, interfacing between executive and legislature by supporting legislative drafting, among others. Under review, 500 terrorism cases were handled, 10 cases on Securities and Exchange Commission were handled, 10 cases on hostage taking and kidnapping were handled, and 3 cases on cyber crimes were indeed handled. That brings, by the end of 2019, to about 40% completion rate as it relates to the cases that were reflected. And as at May 2020, 45% of the around 600 cases received by the department were indeed handled and disposed of. Let me now come to the civil litigation department. The percentage of civil cases handled is as follows. 60% of the cases handled were on human rights matters, and we have succeeded in saving the federal government about 10 billion naira cost relating to the claims arising from those fundamental human rights cases that were being litigated in court. About 25% of the cases were on contracts, and I'm happy to report that we equally succeeded in saving the federal government about 3.5 billion naira relating to claims associated with contracts. And 15% of the cases handled were cases relating to land. As it relates to the jurisdictions where these cases were handled, 90 of those cases were at the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, 100 of the cases handled were in National Industrial Court, 110 were at the High Court of States and the FCT, and 400 cases were litigated at the Federal High Court. So for cases litigated at Federal High Court, which were 50 cases, relating to 50 cases, component thereof, we saved the federal government 1,765,015,000 naira relating to the cases that were handled before Federal High Court. On cases that were litigated before ECOWAS Court, we have succeeded in saving the government 150 million in naira and 800 million in dollars. As it relates to the cases handled at state high courts, 20 cases were disposed of, and those cases translate to a saving of 181 million naira for the federal government. As it relates to the efforts of the federal ministry related to cases handled internationally, I am happy to report that arising from the efforts, prosecutional efforts of the Federal Ministry of Justice, 8 cases were dropped at the International Criminal Court on account of robust presentation made by the Federal Ministry of Justice relating to criminal cases filed against the interest of the federal government before International Criminal Court. We entertained 58 mutual legal assistance requests from 58 countries across the globe. We have succeeded also in forcing Swiss to post a bond of $14 million relating to a piracy case that is in contention. As it relates to MOUs involving Nigeria and some other countries and agencies, ministries, agencies, departments, and agencies of government, we treated 42 MOUs and ensured at the end of the day that arising from the quality support provided in analysis of this document, that the interest of the federal government is adequately factored into the MOUs. We received 11 requests for extradition, and indeed attended and contributed to all statutory meetings of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, report on the implementation of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in Nigeria, presented to United Nations Human Rights Convention in Geneva, among others. Again, on African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Nigeria has been applauded and is indeed up to date with the reporting obligation. First national workshop on Nigerian Correctional Services Act was carried out. And a point of interest relating to Nigerian Correctional Service Act is the new innovations brought into the law for the purpose of ensuring decongestion of our prison formations across the nation. We have equally supported process like demarcation exercise between Nigeria and Cameroon as it relates to provision of international legal guidance on border and pillar demarcations. On the fight against corruption and associated recovery of looted and illicit assets, I am happy to report that within the period in contention, Nigeria has succeeded in recovering $311 million from Abuja Loot 3 from US and New Jersey. The money has since been repatriated to Nigeria. We are, as it is, now pursuing a recovery of 62 billion dollars arrears from oil companies relating to profit, relating to recovery relating to profit sharing contract agreement. Again, these monies, as recovered, the 311 million, has supported the utility development and by the agreement of the parties, and indeed the Nigerian state, are to be applied to the development of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Kano-Abuja Expressway, and Second Niger Bridge. Relating to OPL 245, Malabu, 1 billion is being pursued for recovery, and the $72 million component relating thereto has already been recovered from UK and repatriated back to Nigeria. And we have joined as interested parties and victims of crime a litigation pending in Italy, in respect of which we have applied for our interest as a nation to be registered in relation to around 1 billion naira being the subject of litigation, a criminal litigation in Italy relating to OPL 245. On the whistleblowers recovery policy, I am happy to report that we have succeeded within the period in recovering around 685 million naira, and the amount has been well lodged into the asset recovery account of the federal government. On the disposal of vessels, trucks, and barges, the Office of the Attorney General has succeeded in disposal of a sizable amount, and the sum of 500 million naira has already been lodged into the asset recovery of the federal government arising from the sales of these assets. I'm happy to report that arising from the innovative amendments effected to this act, the fortune of Nigerian states as it relates to revenue generation has multiplied beyond imagination. As at 2018, Nigeria recorded meager sum of 22 billion naira for the whole year relating to stamp duties. But with the innovations and amendment effected on the Stamp Duties Act, within a span of 6 months, Nigeria in 2020 recorded around 66 billion naira, which indeed is a triple in terms of the volume recorded arising from the new innovations brought into the law amendment by the department. We have developed certain policies as a ministry for the purpose of ensuring the transparency and accountability associated with the recovery and disposal of assets. On this note, we have succeeded in putting in place asset tracing, recovery, and management regulation, which is a regulation designed to bring about the desired consistency, uniformity, and transparency and accountability in the system associated with the recovery of assets. Again, we have put in place standard operating procedure for asset disposal, an implementation of National Anti-Corruption Strategy 2017 to 2021, and indeed, at the national level, we have succeeded in sponsoring resolution on strengthening asset recovery to support 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in December 2019 at Abu Dhabi. On the human rights, I am equally happy to report that our human rights position has not been very bad as far as compliance and upholding the culture of entrenching the protection of human rights is concerned. We have demonstrated that as it relates to Apple 6 killings, where we, at our instance, the sum of 135 million was paid as compensation. We equally supported the passage of Anti-Torture Act 2017. We supported the passage of Niger Delta Development Commission Amendment Act. We supported the passage of Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshot Act 2017. We supported the passage of Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act, among others. At the international level, we are happy to report that we have been in effective and active collaboration with United Nations on the human rights record and United Nations Special Rapporteur. We have addressed the issue of right to adequate standard of living on non-discrimination, extrajudicial summary and arbitrary executions to Nigeria were all issues that were deliberated and then worked upon with Nigeria at the international level. And in that respect, we met our reporting obligations under Article 62 of the African Charter on Human Rights. So we have, in that regard, facilitated meetings with United Nations Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial summary and arbitrary executions to Nigeria, facilitated meetings with United Nations on adequate housing, right to adequate standard of living, and non-discrimination. Nigeria met reporting obligations under Article 62 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
At least you are able to know some of the things that are happening around and how much this is impacting positively on governance in Nigeria, whether it is fighting corruption or fighting terrorism, or indeed helping other arms of government to get a focus in terms of legal advice. We have been able to hear what Abubakar Malami has been doing in office. We'll see you again with more happenings in the justice sector of Nigeria and the judiciary particularly. We'll see you. Bye-bye.